Andre, game number 2 is going to be on Ohana, and Sortof is the one that's choosing it.
Very interesting. Ohana, one of the smaller maps in our map pool. Normally, Zergs love those nice big maps like Whirlwind, like Daybreak. But to choose Ohana, it really surprises me. We have to expect something from... Well, okay, when I see something like this, I say I'm expecting something from Sortof, but we know Sortof to be a very standard player.
All right, so game number 2 will begin in just a moment here. As, guys, this is a $5,000 match, everything for top 3 placing, and Sortof has come a long way. You know, when Sortof we're getting the flights arranged, it's snowing in Sweden. Now, I'm sweating, and it's December, and we're in California, and that's pretty standard. But in Sweden, there's like 12 feet of snow. Sortof's plane got delayed by an entire day. He came in here, had less time to adjust to jet lag, and he still got into the round of 8 and smashed Hyun 3-0, and now he's here playing for a third-place match. Who would have expected him? Because we had players like TSLPolt, FXO Lena come into the open bracket. No, it's Western Wolf Sortof.
Unbelievable. And let's go ahead and check him out as we head into game number 2 on Ohana, starting right now. In the bottom right-hand position, you talked about him, Frodem. I've absolutely loved this guy. He is Western Wolf Sortof.
In the top left, we have the last Terran playing in NASL, one of the best and one of the legends in StarCraft 2. Give it up for TSLPolt. Lots of Terran fans in the audience. Am I right? As you can tell by the massive amount of red thunder sticks. Guys, this is Ohana, a map where most styles are viable, but it is really small compared to some of the other maps in the pool, like Abyssal City and Whirlwind. So close rush distances does allow for proxy barracks. I don't necessarily think that is the case at all, especially since 12-14 has really fallen out of style. It's always 11-11. But because of those small distances, it's not just good for bio rushes of any kind, also for mech play.
Yeah, mech play is brilliant on this map, and I'll explain it very easily. When you take your 3 bases, it's pretty much the bare minimum amount of bases you need to have those nice mech pushes. When you're around 170 to 200 food, you can push out, and it's extremely hard if Zerg does not have any hive tech units. And all you do is you push out to the 4th base and deny 4th. And then what do you do from there? You don't attack cross map. You don't go to the bottom left. Instead, you pull back, regroup, and then attack to this area. You always look to deny 4th bases. It's a very easy way to play out. You know your mech is going to be slightly more efficient than Zerg, and you can just play the War of Attrition.
Ah, okay. I mean, sometimes some people really take the 4th base and continue park, but then they get counterattacked by roaches. And that's the whole idea. Even if you get counterattacked, you can kind of run back in time, control the 2 towers, and you control so much on a map like Ohana. Now, we do see a really quick command center once again from Polt. And we've been seeing all the variations, but in the end, it just seems like Polt doesn't really cheese too much. But when he does, it is vicious. We saw the Marauder Hellion Biostim play on game number 4 between him and Golden, and was able to really snipe a lot of bio. But that just goes to show you that Polt can play anything. Sort of has to be on his toes.
That's right, and it's so difficult too. After a map like Daybreak, you think you're very, very far ahead, and then you just let it slip between your fingers. I really felt like Sortof was in a comfortable position to even defend against everything that Polt could have thrown out. But Polt, again, one of the highest caliber Terrans, if not the highest caliber Terran that we've seen here at the North American
Oh, yeah,
Center.
I mean, there's people that are talking in threads like, oh, if you were to make a Mount Rushmore, Wings of Liberty, who would you put? And everyone always, unanimously did it by races, like, oh, MMA, MVP, and Marine King maybe be the guaranteed 3, but who'd be the 4th? And I definitely say Polt, because he's able to not only win tournaments and perform well on the Korean and international scene, but, he also symbolizes the Korean that's trying to learn English and connect with fans. He's also doing a lot of cool builds that people copy for a long time, and he's always very consistent, very successful in almost any tournament format, if it's online, if it's on a LAN, if it's in a preparation or a spontaneous format. Polt can do it all, and that's what makes him one of the scariest Terrans. Now, focusing back onto Sortof, he's the guy that says, well, I don't necessarily care about all that. I can just play a solid macro style and I'm just going to win regardless. And we've been talking about that, Andre. That kind of style is so scary.
It is. I mean, to be so successful with just a standard style of play, everybody has countless builds they can do to you. People can just play blindly abusive, and you're behind right off the get-go.
Nice pick off there on the Overlord. And yeah, just like you said, predictable also means that he has been playing so solid throughout the entire tournament, and that's why I think Sortof will continue to excel. Now, he has lost to a few Terrans in the past in big scenarios. Like, for example, his WCS Sweden second place finish was a loss to Thorzane, and when he played a few months also later, he lost to Thorzane again in the finals tournament, so his ZVT isn't necessarily his best matchup. And I did talk to Sortof, and he said that Zerg versus Zerg he's a lot more comfortable in because it's more safe for his macro-type play. And I want to say that even regardless of it, it doesn't necessarily show because last game he looked really comfortable until Polt started being everywhere on the map and out-multitasking.
Well, it looks like Polt is doing the same build we saw him do against Golden for the final game. It is 3 barracks with double tech labs. Now, if this Overlord is able to get over and see at least the 3 barracks, he will have a little indication, but if he was able to see the tech labs...
Oh, he saw one.
He saw one
He
of
only
them.
saw one, and that means that it doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah,
It could be a Marine Hellion push. Regardless, though, he knows there's no third command center, at least... Yeah, especially by the timing of those barracks, he should know the third command center should not be done at all. So that's going to give sort of some preparation time to get ready for any kind of push. Now, we saw this push in game number 4 between Golden and Polt in the round of 8. And he goes with a lot of Marauders to tank damage, but the main DPS is the Marines and Hellions to make sure that no Zerglings can surround.
That's right, and it's just like the Marauders are the tanks. They soak up all the damage. They do damage to spine crawlers or armored units like roaches, but for the most part, they're just receiving all the damage. You want to get up in this choked up little position where Zerglings, if they go to attack, your Hellions are like, LOL, I have 120 more hit points to deal with. So we're going to see he's doing a fantastic job keeping the creep down, receding it as much as possible so it doesn't get surrounded. Not only that, he has a little bit more time he gives a little bit less time for his opponent to react. Oh, but if he actually gets the Hellions!
He shouldn't be able to. The Hellions have so much room to dodge, and the bushes are very tricky to maneuver, and he's been able to snipe some of the Zerglings already. The time is now. Andre Slim's about to finish. Combat Shield is lining up perfectly, and he even has +1. Now, the Zerglings do have +1 melee and care base lining up too, but still the Hellions and Marine count is going to be so big, and unless he's able to capitalize on the positioning of Polt, I can't necessarily see Sortof holding up because he doesn't have any spine crawlers.
It's like he needs to circumvent all of these Hellions completely, then maybe he'll be able to. He's trying to buy time in order to get more production cycles. Now here we go, all the Zerglings are sprinting forward, the Hellions are being excellently microed, and look at how the Zerglings just evaporate. They weren't able to do any damage, Frodan.
There's really nothing that Sortof can do. He's going to lose his queens. The Zerglings are ready to go down. The third base is exposed. The drones are trying to run, but they ain't going anywhere, Andre, as Polt is going to continue to push, rallying reinforcements, and again, from macro play to timing push here onto the third base. No third command center Polt, but no third command center needed. The third drops, but how is he going to be able to hold up anything as more Zerglings are coming in? +1/+1 is useless. Polt about to break through the Zerg natural defense, and Sortof can't do anything about it.
Brilliantly done, and then taking out the 2-2. Really nice. I mean, he has +1 attack to his regular infantry, so that helps out quite a bit. You can see the Marauders are again going to go ahead.
Drones are being pulled!
Oh my goodness, will it be enough? No, the Hellions get out, roast a ton of drones, and Polt takes a decisive advantage. This is most certainly game over in game 2.
Sortof, I mean, he's going to try to drone up and do something, but he's lost everything. He's lost everything short of his spawning pool and his lair tech. He has to remake his Evo Chambers. He's trying to get Infestation Pit, but he has not read the situation. That's because that second tech lab wasn't discovered. It looked like it might just be Marine Hellion, which you can hold off with just Zerglings if you position correctly, but no spine crawlers and lack of scouting has really hurt Sortof, as the supplies tell everything. Low drones, low units, and 1 queen.
That's right, let's go ahead. 17 workers killed in this game. That is so brutal. When you know you killed so many drones, you should always just keep up the pressure. Even though it's small amounts of units, what you end up doing is forcing your opponent to make units, and those could be potential drones. It's beautiful to do this. This looks like a pretty failed attempt, but look at that. all these Zerglings are going to die. Maybe you lost a little bit more, but still, you're forcing out a lot of Zerglings. You're extending your SCV production. Your opponent can't.
That's
right.
right.
53 now to 32. A big economic advantage.
Those 10 Zerglings could have been 5 drones, and that
Correct.
could have been the path of recovery. Everyone always complains, oh, you know, Zerg, they can just make so many drones even after I kill so many. But in this scenario, sort of doesn't feel comfortable enough to, because he says, well, I don't have enough units. I'm just going to straight up die from here. And Sorto's going to try to expand and play really greedy from this point on. 2-2, as well as pathogen glance, and trying to get drone count out. Oh, he's going to also try to pressure and deny his third base as long as he can. The Overlord's a good start, but there's really nothing he can do because Polt's still keeping up the good macro.
Definitely so. And on top of that, he has the production now. You can see how many barracks are out on the field. There are a total of 6. I know that 2-2 is on the way, evened up with his opponent. So everything's looking good for the 2-2 timing. Really, the 2-2 timing isn't to have the upgrade advantage on your opponent, it's to equalize the advantage that Zerg normally has. They're able to get their double evolution up so fast and fit that gas early on, whereas Terran has to get the factory, has to get the starport before he even thinks about starting anything like that. So the fact that he's even is a really good sign. Even the +3 timings are going to be very, very powerful against his opponent.
Polt gearing up for that inevitable +2 weapons, +2 armor push with Marine or just Bio tank. And it doesn't even matter really what Sortof can do unless he gets a good fungal, and Polt kind of messes up some of his unit control. But Polt's micro is usually what separates him also from some Terrans, as he has great control over his units. Look at that, showing restraint, seeing infestors, backing out immediately, and now he can go gear up for a big push. But you know what? He's not even doing that at all just yet. He's saying, I want a few more units before I move out.
You see this drop is preparing. It's just ready to drop down at the third base. He's going to bait all these units across. And then, of course, just pick up and go to the bottom left-hand corner. I love that decision. Now, what does he do with his main army over here? I think he can just build up. You can't really push onto your opponent. If he wants to do a combination, he would do something like drop over at the main and then this drop over at the third base, excuse me.
Oh, man. He's playing the super-duper safe. He doesn't want to overcommit his units. And it's a fair assessment, too, because, you know, if you get your units fungal, then infested Terrans are surrounded, all of a sudden that huge army that you thought you had disappears in seconds, especially if siege tanks aren't in siege mode. But now that he's baited the Zerglings here, he can trap several of the units. Actually, that's a lot of Zerglings from Sortof that's not in position at all, and they try to run, but not before the Polt engages onto it while dropping at the third base. Infestors trying to get there, and they do land the fungal, but the units are not in position to stop this fourth base siege.
Yeah, this third base drop is a little bit weird from Polt, but he's trying to put on just additional pressure. It's still baiting a lot of those fungal growths and forcing a lot of attention away from this main attack. And I think Polt just has way too much stuff for it, and you can see the third base is so vulnerable. He's pushing onto the infestors. There's no real army.
One by one, Andre, they fall, and so do the hopes of Sortof's comeback in game number 2. Polt has a good tank line. He has a couple medevacs. GG! Polt takes game number 2, jumping out to an incredible lead for the third place and fourth place match here at NASL.
Polt has done that Marauder build 4 times in the North American Star League. He has a 100% win rate every single time. He even successfully did against DRG on Whirlwind, a map normally known to be a Zerg favored. But man, oh man, is he showing how powerful his micro and his decision-making is throughout these tactical maneuvers.
Well, you heard what we said. Let's listen to what Zoe and Day9 have over in their corner. As actually they're getting ready, so we're just going to also thank Epson for that game number 2 and get ready for game number 3. My name is Frodan.
And I'm Greytorp. We'll be back with game number 3 after this. happen.
Welcome back, everyone, to the North American Star League Season 4 third and fourth place match.
That's right, we're going over to game number 3. We have a lot of fun here at the North American Star League, but we also have a ton of games that we dish out time and time again every single week. And now we have another one. Game number 3 in this best of 7 set, 2-0 up for Polt. Let's move into it. Polt versus Sortof.
Quick shout out to our graphics team who has also revamped the map intros for this series. In the top right corner of Metropolis, we have the Red Zerg coming down 0-2. He's going to need to make a comeback. It is Western Wolves, Sortof.
Sortof definitely needs to pick things up as he is down 2-0 against this potent player. It is TSLPolt. It just feels like Polt has been playing absolutely standard. He's been playing very, very safe, economic. I mean, even his quote-unquote all-ins have a lot of, I guess, follow-up. They have a way to go into macro mode, stay alive. It's not too committing where you pull all your SCVs and just go and cross your fingers, hope your attack works. He has a way about him where he puts on a lot of pressure but still can macro and go into those games.
Yeah, and that's going to allow Polt to open up more options because now he's shown two sides of the coin. He's shown a macro build. He's shown a huge timing pressure build that if it was held off, Sortof would have been in a great position, but now in both scenarios, he's lost. So Sortof has to be very, very cautious with how he approaches this match, but I don't think that's going to stop him at all. We see, once again, a pool hatchery opening with no gas just yet. Still has the availability of adding it on, here and there, but generally speaking, he's not going to go for a quick hatchery first instead. He's just being super duper safe.
That's right, and one of the ways to see that last push coming is to have that Xel'Naga Watchtower. On Ohana, if you have the Xel'Naga Watchtower, you see those massive amounts of Hellions coming. You could potentially even see the Marauders and Marines, but how do you do that without Metabolic Boost? And I think Sortof has been really, I wouldn't say countered, but he's been dealt with in this early game stage because of the lack of that metabolic boost. I think that's why Korean shifted over to that sort of style, where you can poke around, see where your opponent is going, see, are there Marauders out in the field, are there Marines out in the field, what am I expecting, and then go from there, maybe even do a little bit of pressure. But with this, Sortof is just saying, I need a build that defends against everything, and let's hope I can still stay alive economically. We saw last game, he tried to go into this economic route where he gets a fast third base, but he just was not able to keep up with the big pressure.
Yeah, and that's going to come into play, but Metropolis is a big map. It's a different scenario. We've seen games on this map start off on 3 bases. They say, you know what, let's just not push for 15 minutes, and let's meet up, in 15 minutes, see what we got. And it's one of those scenarios where it's really hard to attack because you have to traverse such a long distance to get to your opponent's base. So that's naturally going to provide an inclination. Oh, but look at here, we have again, instead of a third command center follow-up, we have 2 more barracks coming out of Polt.
I love these 2 barracks. I mean, if we go back to the scouting of the Terran player Polt, he sees that there's no early extractor. And even if you get it 30 seconds later, you will not have that metabolic boost out to, just stay safe against everything. There could be an additional command center going down. There could be 5 more racks or 4 more racks going down. The amount of options that you have to defend against is just too numerous. And he's getting punished for it right now. Still, I don't want to make it like it's an obsolete build, because you can definitely defend against a lot of these pushes. You just need to overdo it with queens, and let's see if we see that. So far, it's 5 queens. I like that. I would love 6. It gives you just enough transfuses, but Sortof is staying on 5 so far, and he really needs those spine crawlers if he wants to hold off against this pressure. Again, double tech labs. No, triple tech labs, excuse me. Oh my god, this is a big, just Marauder-only Hellion.
Wow, Polt's going to mix it up once again and do a variation of his aggressive build. But Polt, I mean, the past few series we've seen out of him in international tournaments and in Korea has been macro games, but he can mix in these vicious attacks that has no hope for Zerg to hold off if they're not prepared. And this Overlord is trying to go in for the scout now, but now Polt rushing 2 Marines to the scene. I don't think they'll be able to see anything, although they might see double tech lab. I don't know how they're going to be able to see anything else besides the Hellion count.
Well, that double tech lapse is enough. He sees the Marauder as well. Now, here's a big tell as well. Look at this. The tech labs, they weren't working. So it's like, why would you get Marauders and not use anything on those tech labs? If you go over here, you can... Nope. Stim's already finished?
No, he just started Stim. So that's going to be a really nice comfort zone for Sortof. He doesn't have to worry about Stim Marauders against his Roaches. But he's just going for a big timing. And he's just going to go with units and just straight up attack. Sortof isn't really making any static defense either. He's just making units himself and trying to use creep spread, which would be really good to limit the effectiveness of these Hellions and Marauders.
Yeah, I really like the response of Sortof this time around, incorporating Roaches. Of course, Roaches aren't the best against Marauders, but if you're on 2 base all-in against 2 base all-in, the Roaches, a lot of times with the power of those queens and transfuses, will stay alive. Also Zerglings, of course, you can't count them out. But you have to get rid of those Hellions. If the Hellions die, you empower your Zerglings, and then all of a sudden you're in a good spot. The Zerglings alone cannot deal with those Hellions, so that's the main purpose of those Roaches. But as you can see, he's just backing off now. I think we're going to see that timing go down in about, what is this, 90 seconds, 80 seconds?
Yeah, is he waiting for Stim here?
He's waiting for Stim,
He's trying to roam. Because I think if he could confront directly, he obviously would. There's only a few Roaches and 30 Zerglings, and if you can get a good position, but the creep spread, as well as strong scouting from Sortof, has already denied this effectively for a little bit. Now, Polt's still trying to zone off, but he's preparing a 3rd command center, so inevitably going to transition to a lot of macro play, but for now, just going to keep up his unit production and switch into tanks.
Yeah, it's not nearly as powerful as last game. As you said it in the beginning, Frodan, the map is just coming to play this game around. I mean, the distance between the bases are just so extreme. You can see even the creep spread is so much better for Sortof.
Yeah.
It's extended all the way down, whereas last game we saw it barely to the Xel'Naga Watchtower. We can see it's also barely to the Xel'Naga Watchtower over here, but this is a gigantic map, Metropolis, as we know. Command Center will go ahead and finish pretty soon, but this is a pretty late 3rd base relative to Sortof's 3rd base, although Sortof hasn't capitalized on this yet. He needs his 5th and 6th gas ASAP, but he still is saying, I need to defend against potential delayed pushes.
Yeah, but I think Sortof already has a right idea. He's already sniffed out this attack won't work. A mini confrontation in the middle of the map, doesn't want to lose too much, so Polt does pull back. But overall sees a lot of Roaches, says, okay, well that's 4 Roaches. That means he's not going to be able to just fast tech into Hive and feel very safe, because he has to spend on units, and you can see his lair is just finishing, his investigation pit is just finishing, so he's trying to get all the important upgrades, but it has been delayed pretty severely on both ends, both for Zerg and for Terran.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Sortof to produce those key units that he needs, but still he has a lot of units on the ground. Was not able to get that surround. The Roaches just lagged up a little bit. Clear Reconstitution will finish pretty shortly here, Frodan. And once he gets that, he'll be able to deal with the Hellions a lot better. He'll be able to extend the creep a little bit faster. Let's see what happens, as he will also be incorporating Infestors now. But you said it perfectly, Frodan. Look how many Infestors are in production. 1.
Well, Infestors are pretty good, Andre.
They are good, but you need more than 1 to stop a player like Polt. But that's forced because of just the massive amount of upgrades that he needs, as you were saying.
And, I mean, Polt is now comfortably on 3 bases. He has a big army. He doesn't necessarily have the greatest upgrades. He only has +1, but he just has a lot of supply. And keep in mind, Zerg is still on lair tech. And as great as lair tech can be, we've seen players like Hyun and ZVT, for example, really push the limits of mid-game Zerg with the capability of Roach, Bane, and Zergling and Infestors. But Sortof, is he able to really hold this off? Needs to make sure to deny the positioning. Metropolis is an area where you can get lots of flanks, but I don't know. There's a lot of units from Polt here.
Yes, there are, but he doesn't have a lot of production, so if Sortof is able to stop this attack from going down, or at least stop it in its tracks, he will be comfortably ahead. He has a very, very nice production. Oh, Infestor!
It went for Fungal, but it misfired. The Infestor is shooting blanks. Too old to serve in the Zerg army. Infestors are trying to also zone off the top part of this map here, but there's really nothing that he can do. The siege tanks are already in position and spread. Sort of going to try to go for a flank. Polt has to be very cautious. He's leaving submarines behind. Instead, Sort of going to use it to cut off some of the reinforcements. But we see that Sort of already forced his hand, and Polt has so many units. He's going to already engage a big stim. No medevac, so Polt is committed to this. Can Sort of break through?
The Infestors are just walking through. Sortof loses so much in this battle, and he's going to lose positioning to defend his third base.
Or even his fourth base, he can't lose it, and there's a lot of drones there, and there's only one queen to stand in the path. Zorg trying to go for the tank. That's going to be an excellent snipe, but he needs a little bit more. Sort of pulling some of his drones to do something, and he looks like he might be able to clean up a lot, but he's already suffered so much damage, losing an incredible amount of infestors and several of his drones.
But still, the saturation is pretty decent, although this is a ridiculous amount of reinforcements that had to be committed to the same push. Now let's look. This army, it's powerful, but it's not as big as we're normally expecting because he isn't at that 3-base production just yet. Once he gets there, he gets it. Let me see how many barracks he has. Yeah, about 2, maybe even 2 more barracks directly after this. He will be at like the optimal production where he can just churn out those units and really rely on his bank. Once he maxes to 200 to just flow in with a ridiculous amount of units. Here we have, this is a kind of an odd push over here, just 2 siege tanks and a couple of marines with a lot of the rest of the army straggling behind. This is exactly what I was talking about. You can be cut off very easily with just Zergling Infestor.
Yeah, but he's doing it very cautiously, trying to get the watchtower and staying on the edge of creep. Still very difficult, again, not just because of the lack of mobility, but because infestors can't retreat as easily, and once they use their energy, they are extremely vulnerable to an attack. Polt's still doing this without medevacs, and he's going to stim several of his marines to try to take out these creep tumors quickly. And as we've seen in IPO5, clearing up these tumors is invaluable for the late game if you want to continue to pressure, as we saw in Bomber versus DRG.
You know, and on paper, you would always say that like Roach Infestor is really nice against this composition. The Roaches give you a little bit of ranged attack to make sure that those... big attack actually coming... Nope. But the Roaches line up the Marines to allow you to fungal a little bit better instead of those Zerglings just getting annihilated every time they try to attack against those Marines. And he had that for a little bit, but Polt is playing this so patiently. Oh my goodness.
And he's moving out for a fourth base as well. He's going to pressure the Infestors. They do land fungals, but one brave Marine is going to go and he takes it out. Billy the Marine on a hero mission to take out as many Infestors as he can.
Billy's dead.
He failed.
But Broodlords are out in this composition, and as I was saying, you don't have the production to really surge across the map. That's why Polt, he's done a great job, though. I mean, look at how much creep was receded. That's really extensive. But Polt probably will be able to get back, or is he going to go for a big fight? I'm not sure yet.
I mean, Polt doesn't necessarily have... If he can just deny bases, it's almost just as good. He knows his opponent is on 4 base as well. Polt doesn't have the best upgrades. Zerg is already on +2 carry pace, but its surround does go on some of the reinforcements. Polt trying to flank, but the Boo's already out, but there's not there's any Infestors to support it. Marines can just chase it down. Infestors not in a good spot to be able to land the reinforcement bungles. One of the Broodlords drop. A very, very sloppy engagement, but regardless, Polt seems to be breaking through ever so slightly.
Oh my gosh, getting the Infestors, which are so important. One of them had full energy, and the Broodlords are going down. There are only 3 of them, but still, I mean, Marines are, what, 1-1 against 0-0, so still looking good. 2-2 on the way, by the way. There is an upgrade advantage, I do believe. 2-2 against 1-1 currently, but still, I mean, Polt's positioning has really spoken in this game.
And Polt is picking off some of these Corruptors, which is really nice. It's effectively limiting any future Broodlords. Polt will lose these units, but he already has, again, 4 bases equal economy to the Zerg opponent, and we've been seeing great amounts of split attacks from Polt to diverge into the late game, and his transition into air is already beginning as he's getting Vikings as well as those upgrades. One thing that sort of had it in his favor is his upgrades. He's at 2-3 over his opponent that was at 1-1, but Polt only gets stronger from here, and Polt was able to trade at a pretty efficient rate.
That's right, and 3-3 hasn't started yet for his for the Zerg right now. Oh, excuse me. +3 melee attack hasn't really started, so he will have like a 3-3 timing, sort of, where he's going to equalize pretty nicely, and his opponent is just getting his upgrades, whereas if the upgrades are already done, he would have all that minerals and gas to spend on, let's say, more Infestors, more Broodlords, etc. Nicely done, just trading out a couple of Marines for Creep Tumors.
This is really nice, trading Zerglings for some of the units.
Yeah.
Sortof doesn't lose too much while being able to stall for some time, and trying to preserve the life of the Creep Tumors. But this is a really good job by both players just to try to control the map with small packs of units, still trying to feel out each other and see where they're at in terms of army strength. 3 Brewers are on the way, but Sortof is also getting a 5th base, and that's going to be kind of scary because now it's going to be that Polt can drop into the main, drop into the 5th base, be everywhere on the map, and it's going to be very hard for Zerg to cover all their bases with such an immobile composition.
And isn't that so interesting? We've had such different styles from Polt. I mean, game 1, he was dropping all over the place, really being aggressive, almost being like, I would say, like select QXC in the old days for the beta. But now Polt changing completely, just going push-heavy styles, and he's still successful with this. Normally it's so hard to play different styles and be successful. He's being competent, and Bolt's more than competent.
And Polt does scan to see where units are positioned, indicating he wants to attack. Sortof going to go for a complete flank. Otherwise, but Polt sees it with his Marine at the watchtower, and that's going to signify to Polt that he should protect his rear a little bit to make sure that he doesn't get completely flanked. The Brewers are now approaching, but they're all kind of choking up. Has to make sure the Infestors don't get hit either, as the Vikings are now trying to push back the front line of Zerg. Can Sortof break through? He needs to. He can't afford to lose his base. He can't afford to lose this game, Andre.
No, he can't. Going down 3-0 would be terrible, but look at that. Clean up all the Vikings. He really didn't have a lot of Corruptors. He's pushing on in. All these units aren't really trapped because there are a lot of Medivacs, but hold that thought. There are Infestors to help out. Sortof cleaning up and retaining this top middle base.
Yeah, but look at how many drones he's killed, Andre. Polt has killed 45 drones this game, and now Sortof's only down to about the mid-50s. He was already at the 70-80 range, and he lost a lot, and he lost one of his bases and a significant amount of damage to that hatchery. Polt's still able to trade out all those units. He was still on just Biotank with a few Vikings, and in the end, Zerg did lose a lot, giving Polt a small window where he can be safe, but at the same time, Sortof did keep a lot of his Infestors, so I feel like both players engaged as well as they could have, but Sortof gave a lot of space to Terran.
So here's the one thing, though. Units lost tab, if we look at it, it's very, very even. That last trade, I feel like if Polt was able to get that out with all of his Medivacs, it would be a much different game, but because he hasn't, Polt's going to take a much more defensive tone this time around. In game number 1, we saw him dropping all over the place, allowing him to buy time to get the beautiful composition of Ravens and Vikings. That counters the Broodlords pretty nicely. He's not able to do that here, and that was really postponing the attacks every single time. So if Sortof goes and says, okay, I feel comfortable, I'm going to push out, I think he's going to be a lot more successful. A lot less Hunter-Seeker missiles, a lot more units. Potentially we can have a really, really nice attack over here. The question is, how does he make that call? How does he say, yes, an attack would be perfect right now?
Well, I mean, given the information he has, he doesn't have much. Polt, despite him having, despite the fact that Zerg has the Zergling down to the map with a lot of speed, Polt's been denying creep. He's been controlling towers, limiting the vision. Sortof doesn't have coverage. In fact, he can't even know if a dropship pack is going to the top half of the map because he doesn't have overlords there. And then he's trying to go for a run by, but there's really going to be no success. And he sees a Raven transition already prepared for Terran. That's going to make it really tough for Sortof to engage.
Is he going to go for it, Frodan? Another group of units. Infestors need to be so careful. One Infestor goes down. Two Infestors. 3. Oh my god, that is so brutal. He needs to keep those infestors alive. They're such a pivotal point in this composition. If you don't have infestors,
any sort of expansions will be the point of conflict, similar to what Polt had experiencing against Golden in his series, where if Sortof loses these 2 bases, he can't mine anything, and sure, he will have an abundance of gas, but he won't have minerals. He won't be able to spend it because he won't have an ability to really get enough units out in time to face against the Terran army for a second round. Now, Polt's still poking around with Marines. Oh, no! The Marines get through, and this hatchery is very weak, Andre!
Nice fungal growth, but
6
oh my
Marines.
gosh! Froden!
You believe in Marine DPS, Andre!
It's going down!
The hatchery falls, and Polt also pushing at the natural base. Oh, he almost got the Roach Warren at the natural, too. But Fungos did manage to kill it off, 60 HP. Polt trying to continue to be mobile despite the fact that he doesn't really have an ability to move out in the middle of the map right now.
Yeah, sort of. It's really unfortunate for him. He has no relative measurement. He doesn't know where his opponent is. He doesn't know the composition, really. He can't get a good feel because of all the traits in the beginning stage. Whereas Polt, because he's been doing all this aggression, he's gotten great scouts, not only of the army composition, but just what his opponent is capable of, where his opponent's scouting is, to let him know what decision to potentially make. That's why he's been able to just say, all right, I don't even have to put up bunkers, I don't have to put up siege tanks. I know you're not attacking me, you're just waiting until you have this composition.
This is the moment where Zerg just starts to panic. Is he really trading out his SUVs? Have I let this go on for too long? Yeah. Did I let the wound bleed too much that it's pussing? This is the point where Zerg's like, I need to kind of do something. And that's why Sortof is pushing in, but Broodlords are kind of exposed. Ravens do have Seeker missiles, and Polt is sending in Seeker missiles, going everywhere, going to the infestors, going to the Broodlord. Explosions, and the Zerg army is crumbling. Take a look at this surface area that Polt to engage. The Broodlords are trying to do whatever they can, but there's a lot of blue left on this army, and Sortof doesn't have any energy remaining. Queens aren't able to do anything.
Oh my
God!
How do you split like that, Polt? You unbelievable guy! I cannot believe that. That was one of the best